actually aren't not enough condos to service the needs out there.
Yeah, no, I think you've got the right pulse on the market. I mean, empirically, we understand when we're in the market that feel of the supply and the demand. My first comment is that newspapers have drastic headlines to sell newspapers.
Yes.
I love when I get summaries of the news, and I'll read 2 articles will be that the condo market's oversold and it's going to crash, and the other 2 will say relative to the world we're doing fine. So look, the statistics that I believe in are, and I guess some of the fundamentals we believe in are, 1, you're still sitting at 1% vacancy within Toronto.
Mm-hmm.
Second is that core properties, I think, will always be safe. I think as you get into peripheral markets in the GTA, it's a little bit more dangerous.
Yeah.
We've seen a large rise in the core, and I think that will be protected. The third thing is that from a purchaser perspective, and I'm sure when you're speaking with clients, it's the same type of advice, is that you're not buying real estate to try to make money in a year or 2 years.
Right.
I would never advise someone to buy one of our products or any product for that matter and try to flip it.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think it's a positive strategy, but I do believe that in a 5-year period and certainly in a 10-year period, they're going to be ahead of the game. They're going to build themselves either good equity for their own home or from an investment property perspective. So I think that if you're buying centralized property at a good value, don't get caught up in the craziness of bidding wars. You got to be careful and know what your price range should be.
Yeah.
But when you're buying at a good market value, as long as you're in for the long term, you'll do great.
Perfect. That makes sense. I always like to ask my interviewees, whereabouts do they live in the city and why?
So I live in the Avenue and Lawrence area.
Okay.
I guess as I got older, I started in the core and really moved north sort of per decade.
Yeah.
So I'm mid-40s now, and I'm on my 3rd house actually at Avenue and Lawrence. But I did live young in St. Clair. I lived at Yonge and Carlton before.
Yeah.
And it really has to do with family and space. As my family grew, we wanted a bit of a larger house. We wanted a backyard. And when we couldn't afford both a bigger house and a bigger backyard, we said, what do we want? So we started with the bigger backyard and small house.
Yeah.
And then we traded that up. And I'm a classic example of someone who made good amounts of equity within my home, which allowed me to trade within the market. So we looked at proximity to the highway, which helps me for work.
Yeah.
We looked at a neighborhood with a lot of families,
mm-hmm.
and safety within that, and really convenience, I guess, to friends. So those would be some of the major reasons.
Perfect. That's great. So you would certainly advise other people out there that owning a home has been worth it over your journey?
Oh, 100%. We're in an environment now where you can borrow. I just did a mortgage on a condo at 2.69.
Yeah.
We'll see how that number stands up in the podcast world, but that's a 5-year rate. It's unbelievable that you can borrow money at that number. So the way I'd like to think about it is if you can grab leverage at 2.69%, let the market appreciate just relative to inflation, you're building equity on very, very cheap money.
Absolutely. Actually, I can do one better than that. I just renewed my mortgage for my home at 2.2% fixed.
Oh, you see, there we go. Okay, well, after the call, you can tell me where that came from.
Okay, sounds good. Now, what do you think about people raising families in condos?
Well, I think it's really a mindset.
Yeah.
You look at, if we lived in New York City, we probably wouldn't have the conversation. If we lived in London, England, we would think of it as being in a teeny flat or in a condo. So I like personally having a yard. I enjoy that. That being said, could I live in a condo across the street from a big park? Probably.
Yeah.
I think condos, they're great for certain stages of life.
Mm-hmm.
The toughest one is probably the late 30s to early 50s, where the family is the biggest, where you're utilizing your home a lot more. But earlier on in life, they're phenomenal. Later on in life, they're a great pad from which you can travel and not worry about taking care of the home. And that being said, there's also lots of different build forms other than just, I think when people say condo, they think of a high-rise condo.
Right.
But we also have townhome condominiums and stacked townhome condominiums, which also offer different build forms.
Absolutely. Perfect. Anything else you'd like our listeners to know about before we say goodbye?
Well, I think that you're in residential real estate. I'm in residential real estate. We believe in the market. And I think that if you buy smartly and you hold for the long term, I think it is a great asset within your portfolio. And I think we'll all be in good shape if people keep the confidence in the market that exists today. Yeah,
absolutely. I agree 100%. I mean, I certainly plan on holding my holdings probably for at least another 20 or 30 years, in fact, because, the whole, short-term buying and selling within a couple of years just doesn't really make any sense. buy and hold for the long term makes a lot more sense to me. Thank you so much, Michael, for joining us today. And viewers, you can touch base with me at devel@bosleyrealestate.com or check out my website at morrisonsellsrealestate.com. And you can find me on Twitter at Devel Morrison. Thanks, everyone, for listening. Bye. Thanks, Mike.
Thanks, Devel.
You've been listening to The Morrison Report. Hosted by Devel Morrison, sales representative for Bosley Real Estate Limited Brokerage, real estate investor and best-selling author, bringing you insights on the Toronto real estate market. Join us for another podcast.